women of the world. Welcome to my podcast, Learning to Live for Change, L2, L4C, Episode 2, Fighting for Fertility, the Unknown. If you didn't catch last week's episode, I would strongly advise you to go and do a recap of Episode 1 that was last week, and also go ahead and take a listen to the intro for Fighting for Fertility. And it's extremely important that you're able to catch up on those episodes so that you can, kind of know what I'm discussing and what it is that I'm going to be sharing with you. So to do a recap, I'm using the Learning to Live for Change platform. And remember, we are advocating for change for women, whatever that may be. And I am sharing my most recent journey with you as I fight for fertility. So this year has been a very difficult and emotional battle for me, and I decided to share it with the women of the world. So we ended last episode, and I had just informed you that my gynecologist of several years has finally told me that she feels like it would be in my best interest to move forward with a major surgery. So I ended the episode explaining to you that for me, it was, of course, devastating news because I've never had a major surgery or a minor surgery, and it was just a lot to take in. It was a lot to accept. So my encouragement today, as I encouraged all the women last week and week before, is to make sure that you know where your body stands. Understand your body. Women of the world, we are like emotional creatures. No disrespect. So we have so much going on with our bodies. I mean, it's just, it's how God made us, where it's extremely important for us to stay on top of our health. So I'm strongly encouraging you to do that, however and whatever means necessary. Remember, again, catch last week's episode so that you can understand the different resources that you have in some of your communities. So moving on, let's get to it. I'm now told that I have to have a major surgery, and I'm dealing with it. I'm taking it all in. So the major surgery is called a myectomy. And the myectomy focuses on the removal of fibroids. I told you last week that fibroids is a usually non-cancerous growths. They're like little balls, they're like these different sizes. I mean, they are like completely disgusting. No offense. And they grow within a uterus. The wall, sometimes it can be on the lining of the uterus. Sometimes it can be on the outside. It just depends. And you may have one, you can have 5. I mean, you can have 10. Every woman's body is different. So that's why it's extremely important for you to follow up on those doctor's appointments, pap smears, get those exams, etc. So, of course, I'm now doing all kinds of research on what a myectomy is. What are the pros and cons of this surgery? What could go wrong and what could go right? So, of course, you don't want to think negative, but you do want to outweigh all the possible outcomes. So that's kind of where I am. I stayed up night after night throughout the day. I did research. I wanted to know exactly what this myectomy was and how can I benefit. So the benefits based on the research, and again, I like to go to Mayo Clinic and I like to go to WebMD. They're consistent with their information. And basically for me, as I explained to you in the previous episodes, I had these dramatic cycles, excruciating pains, knee pains, back pains. The cycle flow was extremely heavy. I mean, just uncomfortable. I couldn't, I couldn't work. So I had to have this surgery. And now that my doctor have informed me that I had fibroids, I had to have those fibroids removed. So What I did was a brief consultation with my doctor, my gynecologist, and her assistant, and I asked them for a couple of referrals because now my doctor being a gynecologist, so she basically treats women, just women health, pap smears, a woman's routine exam. She can consult you on birth control pills, look for other type of disorders that you may have as a woman, endometriosis. She focuses more on that. And now it's time for me to transition to a OBGYN / gynecologist. And an OBG more focuses on women's care, such as prenatal and postnatal care. So pregnant women, a OBGYN gynecologist can deliver babies, and they can do other types of surgeries. So this is kind of where I am now. It was kind of out of her hands, and like, okay, you need to move forward. So after doing my research on 3 different types of referrals that she gave me, I had made a selection, and it was now time for me to go and have my first consultation with him, the doctor, the surgeon. So I was preparing for that. I had, again, questions that I wanted to ask him as far as the procedure, and just what he thought about my fertility journey. Of course, he had my medical records from my original doctor, my gynecologist. So, he would be very knowledgeable about where I stand, where I'm coming from, and what type of care I need. What's next on the agenda for me, as I continue to fight for fertility. So, based on my research with the surgeon, he appeared to be a very good doctor. He was at one of the top or best hospitals, what some may say, in the nation or in Texas. Actually, matter of fact, a lot of women travel from all over the world to deliver babies, to have different types of surgery at this particular hospital. The hospital is located, I can say this at least, in our medical center, so the Houston Medical Center, which has also been rated as, one of the best. So I felt very confident based on the research that I did for this particular doctor. I looked at his specialty. I looked at the school he went to, his med school, different boards he sat on, awards he may have achieved. I mean, your girl was serious, and again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a medical profession. I just really care about my body, and I'm encouraging all you women of the world to do the same. And I know long term, I got to have my kid. So I'm fighting for fertility. And it is extremely important for me to do whatever it is that's necessary for me to be able to live a healthy life and be able to be in a position in the future, and I'm hoping in the near future, to conceive. So I was extremely happy with what I read. I was with his background. So now it's appointment time. It's time for consultation. So I called, I made an appointment, and I went to my first consultation. So women, I encourage you, understand that where I am with this now, I've transitioned from having the community assistant, and I'm now at a full-time job. And of course, I now have insurance. So, of course, this is where it can get kind of tricky, because going to a community clinic, they do offer, as I explained to you in the previous episode of the podcast, you can get your basic woman exam, which includes a pap smear, birth control if needed, your physical, which is going to consist of a, basic blood panel, a CBC, testing for STD, HPV, HIV. But when it comes to surgeries, that's where it gets tricky. So that is another reason why I'm doing this podcast, because I want to help other women. I want someone who's listening to be able to, you can go to my Learning to Live for Change website, And if you want to donate, you can do that. I want to be able to help women by any means to be able to do the things that they want to do in their future. It is expensive. Like, healthcare, surgeries, oh my goodness, it's not affordable. So I'm speaking to you from a perspective of where I was coming from, which was going to community clinics, which is awesome because that allowed me to continue my care, get my pap smears, see my doctor, and then it allowed me to see where I was when it came to, me being revealed that I had a fibroid. So now that I went from part-time work to full-time work and I qualified for benefits, it was top priority for me to be able to move forward and pursue this major surgery. So yes, women of the world, it is not as easy as it seems if you're financially not in a situation to have the surgery. And I do understand that. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. I hope and pray that we can help one another. There's other resources out there. I just hope and pray and wish that we can all come together. Other foundations, other organizations, people that are listening can, we can start helping other women to be able to have the resources that they need to be able to have these type of surgeries. So at my consultation, we discussed the type of surgery, which of course I had already done my research about the myomectomy, removal of the fibroids, how long the surgery was going to be, and what to expect. So, after having the conversation with my now new doctor / surgeon, I just started having all kinds of thoughts. And, there was a lot of things going through my mind. Why am I going through this? Is it not meant to be for me to have a kid? Why do I have to fight so hard for my fertility? But again, I knew that this was something that I had to do, but I was still very indecisive. Of course, I know I had to do it. But again, the thought of a major surgery was just very hard to comprehend. It was very hard to accept. So I knew that if I continued down the path, especially after having the discussion with my surgeon, and not have this surgery, that eventually continuing to have these bad cycles, menstrual cycles or periods, could result in me having to have a hysterectomy. And so that now takes us to a different topic. Again, I'm not making any assumptions. Women of the world, there's no judgment. If you have other questions or things that you want to ask me about my experience, remember, I am not a medical profession. I'm not a doctor. I am talking to you based on my experience and my knowledge of what I went through this past most recent year and years as I'm fighting for fertility. So I can answer any questions that you may have as best as I can. But I can tell you that a hysterectomy is a removal of your uterus, or what some may refer to as your womb. And once your uterus is gone, that's pretty much a wrap. And again, I'm not making any assumption that, everybody knows what that is. There's so many parts of a woman's body and so many things, and we don't know it all. So, the hysterectomy, they have a partial hysterectomy and there's a full hysterectomy. So with the partial hysterectomy, it is the removal of the uterus, but it leaves the cervix intact. And then when you have a total hysterectomy, it's the removal of the uterus and the cervix. So remember, you got to have your uterus to be able to carry this baby. So that's why, for me, it was extremely important to, have this major surgery and to look forward to being able to conceive. So after the consultation, I did feel good. Again, I was still, of course, indecisive because I'm still deciding on, I'm looking at the pros and cons. And I know it would be very beneficial for me to have this surgery. But of course, like I said, human nature, you always think about the negatives. So, my doctor made me feel our surgeon made me feel very comfortable. He explained. He seemed to have a lot of experience and knowledge in this field. But again, it was just me preparing myself, preparing myself for something that can change my life forever, So where I am now, I started at that moment. It's like I started transitioning into survival mode. Every day I was thinking about, just where I was, and there was a lot of up and down emotions. I was sad one day, happy one day, I may have cried one day, laughed. And those of you who know me, my family and friends, shout out to everybody who's supporting Learning to Live for Change, and particularly supporting Fighting for Fertility, my most recent episodes. Thank you guys for your support. I don't stay one way. I'm down, I get up, And women of the world, I encourage you to push yourself. When you're having those emotional moments, we are entitled to them. We're women. And not to say that women, we have to be emotional, but it's just what it is. We're women. So we are entitled to having those days. And my encouragement to you is surround yourself with people that can lift you up, friends and family. Always include laughter in your life daily. It is extremely important. Make sure that you are engaging with others, and try to do something with family or friends. Try to get out the house, even if it's just visiting a family member. Try to engage, or meeting a friend for coffee, whatever the case may be. Try to engage in some activities to help you emotionally. And I know for me, as soon as I started preparing, and just to give you some dates, it was last September of 2020 is when I started preparing for this major surgery. And the major surgery date was set for December 22nd, 2020. So it was a little bit of time for me to, consult with the surgeon, prepare, and just get myself ready. But during those months, I was just an emotional wreck. I'm going to be honest with you, because I didn't know what to expect, So I was, trying to engage and interact with family and with friends. And then, of course, women of the world, I also encourage you to have your alone time, in a healthy way. Have your alone time where you can interact with yourself, do some self-therapy. Of course, I blog, so I encourage you to journal, so you can blog in any form. But journaling is strongly encouraged. Just write down your feelings, write down your emotions, write down your thoughts. If you don't want to share with the world, you don't want to share with anyone, it's between you and God when you're journaling. It's your thoughts, your innermost, deepest secrets or feelings. So you would be amazed of how relief you are when you share those thoughts with yourself, and you do it through journaling. It is important. So I had a combination of both, engaging and interacting with my family and friends. And then those months of preparation before the surgery, I had a lot of alone time, just getting my thoughts ready for, I say, a life-changing event. It's a major surgery, and the myomectomy was consisting of cutting. So basically it's like your bikini line, and the surgeon goes in and removes the fibroids, however many you may have, and then they sew you back up. So, when I was doing all my research, I was overwhelmed, with the recovery time, the pain, anesthesia, it was a major surgery. So anesthesia was definitely going to be administered. And for me, it was, going to be the first time. So it got to a point where my family and friends was like, Felicia, like, stop it, because I was really stressing. I was really worried and concerned and, trusting in God. But again, about to embark on a new adventure and endure a life-changing event. So that's where I'm going to leave you guys today or tonight. I'm going to end it on the note of I've just consulted with my surgeon. He told me where I was standing as far as my health. He was very optimistic that my uterus could be saved and that, I would make it through the surgery and I would be able to continue my fight for fertility. So, of course, I still pondered with the unknown, what's going to happen, regardless of what my surgeon is telling me. I know he's an expert. I know it's his field. And, this is what he's been doing countless amount of time. But you always in the back of your mind have a feeling of what if, which leads you to the unknown, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing what is going to be. So that's where I was. So join me next time, episode 3, for Fighting for Fertility, as I continue to share with you women of the world my battle and my journey as I continue to fight. Good night, ladies.